Hey, I'm Jamie.
I'm Blake.
And we're Blamey.
I guess so. Welcome to our wonderful Halloween edition of our, I don't know, show, channel, whatever you call it.
Blamey.
That's why I have a smoking hot pumpkin next to me.
Should have put like decals on my dress.
Yeah, I think it would be great. Anyways, so what we're doing today is we're going trick-or-treating, right? And so what I mean by that is we both have 5 books that we know the other person has read.
Okay.
And we're going to ask them if it was a trick or if it was a treat.
Okay, great.
And how we liked it and explain why it is how it falls in each category. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You want me to start? You want to start?
Can I start?
Yeah. Oh,
I think this is
Game
the
of
first one.
Thrones.
Yeah.
So here's a hard thing. I don't really keep books that I don't like. And I loved A Song of Ice and Fire. And I really love Game of Thrones. The first book of it was excellent. So I would say a definite treat in this regard.
Awesome.
Yep. Okay, let's go with Scarlet.
Interesting.
Now,
that you
I purposely didn't necessarily pick Cinder.
Yeah.
Which I knew you really liked. But I knew you liked the series, but I figured this is one I didn't really know how you felt about it. So, trick or treat?
That's probably my least favorite of the whole series, so that's so interesting that you picked that one. She just was a little rash and a little... but I liked the wolf thing. I think it was a treat.
The wolf thing?
Yeah. I mean, look, that's a wolf right there.
Yeah, I guess it is. So she, Little Red Riding Hood, is that who she's supposed to be? Interesting. So are you sure it's a treat?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is squarely in treats. We have 2 treats so far.
We have 2 treats.
I'm afraid most of these might be treats. We'll see how they go.
Also, he didn't tell me what we were doing, so I'm...
You just grab books.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You're up.
Okie dokie. I know what the answer is for this one.
What is this one? Liza Lockmore is an excellent, excellent book. That is definitely a treat.
Sorry.
There's no question about it. It's a treat. All right. We've got Furyborn.
Huh. I was pleasantly surprised with this one.
Okay.
And all of this, like, there's 3 of them, and they just were very steady, which I appreciate in a series. If it's,
I'm pleasantly surprised for is the texture on this book.
The texture of that book.
I feel that's a treat in and of itself. So is this a trick or a treat?
It was a treat in a tricky way because I wasn't expecting it to. I wasn't expecting to like it.
If you would have had no expectations, would it have been good?
Yeah, would have been good.
Okay. But if you would have had high expectations, would it have been lower than your expectations?
Interesting. That's a good question. No, I think I enjoyed that one.
Just a solid trick?
No.
Solid treat.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me.
So.
Claire Legrand? Is that like Legrand?
I say, yeah.
Claire Legrand. Congratulations, Claire, on the treat. Excellent. I have to read that one just so I can feel that book in my hands. It's awesome.
It is actually really, really cool.
All right, what do we got here?
I know you've read this one. Graceling.
Graceling. Okay. Yeah, that's a hard one. It wasn't a bad book by any means. It wasn't awesome. I think I'm gonna go with the trick on this one. Here's the thing. Nothing happens in this book.
That's not
true. Oh, it is. They travel from one place to the next and get it on as they practice fighting, and that's all that happens in this book. Right? Like it's an excuse for them to use their super awesome fighting ability, travel somewhere, and then run away. That's basically the end of this book.
You didn't read the other ones, did you? Because sadly,
I did not watch Fire. I did not read Fire or Bitter Blue. Or a new one. There's one more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't read those.
So
I imagine if it was anything like this book, they traveled.
No.
And probably got it on.
They're all very different. Actually, I do struggle with the romance in this series, but this is a trick then?
It's a trick. Okay. Definitely a trick. All right. Interesting. Fire.
That's funny.
Interesting how you just struggle with the romance in this book.
Yeah, I do with all 4 books. I struggle with the
romance. What you're saying is this isn't just a travelogue? They didn't just go from one place to the next?
Not necessarily.
Training?
No.
And then
it all takes
training?
place pretty much in the same spot. I liked the villain in it. I liked the ending. I just did not like the ending of that book. And if it's a bad ending, that might be a trick, but I wouldn't put this in the trick, so that's funny.
I mean, they're 2 different books.
You're right. It's actually very different.
But the fact that this is a trick doesn't surprise me. This one is personally.
Sad.
So, all right, what do you got for me?
Red Sister.
You know, the Red Sister was really good. But it might be a trick for me.
Really?
Like,
You told me to read it.
yes, yeah. I think warrior nuns are cool, but maybe just not for me as much. Like, I like epic, large scale fantasy,
Okay.
and there was some of that there, but it felt a little YA for me. Maybe is the right answer.
You make it sound like that's such a bad thing.
No, it's not. It's just
Okay.
that's not as much of a treat for me.
Was it urban fantasy or like low fantasy?
No,
Okay.
it's low fantasy. It's set on an Earth-like world.
Okay.
Which might be Earth. It might be somewhere else. I don't know. There are some phenomenal chapters in that book. Right, and some really good ones. And I'm excited to read the rest of the series and maybe see if it breaks it out for me. But it's on the border. There's a reason I have this. I finished it a year ago, and I haven't bought the next one. I've heard Mark Lawrence is incredible. The book was really good. There are some interesting things in it, but it just didn't hook me like some of the other fantasy series that I read. And I guess maybe we should explain how we do this. What we did is we bought the first of a whole bunch of fantasy series,
A bunch.
and then read a bunch of them, and then the ones that was just very clear, like I want the next book, give it to me. We'd buy those. But other ones, like I finished this, and then I moved on to other books, and I haven't come around to getting the second book of this yet, which to me indicates it's a little tricky. Which tricks aren't bad, it just isn't quite the treat I was looking for.
Gotcha.
Okay, little breakup here, but I'm curious about the Midnight Library.
It's definitely a treat.
Wow.
Here's the thing. I don't love time travel. I really don't. There's way too many loopholes and way too many flaws, so it's not perfect because there were too many things in this book that just didn't settle well with me due to the time travel aspect. But I really liked this book a lot. I thought the writing was really good. I liked that it was a woman perspective written by a male. Like that, I think he did a really good job writing a female perspective. I liked her. There's one paragraph in this book that's like my favorite paragraph I've ever read in my whole life. That'll stick with me forever, probably. That's definitely a treat.
Awesome. All right. What do you got?
Last one.
Kings of the Wild.
Kings of the Wild.
This is a freaking treat.
Really?
It is.
I wasn't sure.
It is a phenomenal book.
When you said what we were doing. I was like, maybe this would be a trick.
Right. So we bought the first of a bunch, and I didn't realize that there's like more in the same world, but aren't necessarily an immediate. As I hold up the next book, aren't necessarily an immediate sequel to it. It's kind of offshoot, tangential. But the main kind of premise of this is that there's bands, kind of like rock bands, but these bands are mercenaries of people that go and fight monsters. And you get the band, this old famous band, think like Guns N' Roses or something like that, back together to go fight one more thing. And so they're super famous. Everyone knows them, but they're really old. And it's just a really good book, really interesting premise, just a treat through the whole thing. It was interesting. This was immediately after this, right? So I read this, then I read this, and this was a way more enjoyable experience than this one. Not that this was bad, but this was so different, so novel, so out there. It was a phenomenal book. A great treat.
Cool. It's in the wrong pile.
Sorry. Last for you. This one's a treat for me, but I'm curious for you. How was Stormfront?
Listen, Henry Dresden is awesome, and all of his friends are awesome.
He would agree.
He would agree. It just wasn't up my alley. I don't know how to really describe it. I would have preferred a little. I don't know.
You really don't like the really low fantasy, like magic in a modern world type of settings very often.
I really don't.
Yeah,
I would rather
especially when they're like boy wizards that are ow. Okay. All right.
I love Harry Potter. But I think ever since Harry Potter, I just struggle with that as a backdrop for a fantasy.
That's fair.
I just would rather really escape, and where he's in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't get all the way into the magic of it.
So
I loved the characters.
So you'd say it was a trick?
Yeah.
It's a trick.
For me, it's a trick.
I understand. Well, these are our 5 or treats for Halloween.
Hey, we ended up with 4 tricks and 6 treats.
There we go.
That's not bad. I thought it would be a little.
Yeah, great. Well,
Guess
and
that's
also,
our cue.
yeah, that's the screen went black, so we're probably done here. So wait, let's maybe doubly recommend our treats real quick.
Yeah, okay.
So what would you recommend? So,
Definitely, I recommend the Midnight Library. You can get past a little bit of time travel, then it's fantastic.
there's no reason you wouldn't love Kings of the Wild. Honestly, it doesn't matter if you don't like fantasy. Super compelling, interesting book.
Furyborn, I read the whole series. I definitely do have complaints. Time travel is also a factor of why you picked some time travel-y ones.
Weird.
I just think I liked it. And it's been months since I read it, and I still like it. So I think I'd recommend this one.
Awesome. Liza Lockamora, incredible book. Incredible book as a standalone, incredible series. I'm really excited about the 4th one. Hopefully Scott Lynch eventually releases it. I know he's had some mental health problems, and that's been influencing it. But this is one of the, I think it'll be a classic in fantasy literature for dozens of years.
I'm so excited to read that one.
No, it's great.
Scarlet is the 2nd book of Cinder. I love this series. Very just juvenile and predictable. And
Is it time travel?
there's no time travel. No.
Okay.
Scarlet's probably my least favorite of the 4 books, but the wolf and the grandma, I just really like this book. Yeah.
All right.
Little Red Riding Hood, you have to have a wolf.
Well.
I recommend that series for sure.
All right. Well, it's funny because talking about wolves, because there's also wolves in this one, and in what is it with wolves in fantasy? Enjoy your trick or treating, and hopefully you can share with us some of your tricks or treats when it comes to books down below.
See you later.
Like and subscribe.